Hi everybody, I'm Laurie from Laurie's Mechanical Marvels, and welcome to the Monday.
It's 7 and the news. It's time for the Monday Club, featuring your host Jennifer Kirk, with the help of Stubborn Monkey and a wizard called Gandalf. Featuring the sounds of the Glass Orchestra and the musical stylings of Gordon, the Music Maestro. Let's get ready to...
Exclusive Monday Club William Loudon Sons Pal Brick Wagon is now available from Rails of Sheffield. Order yours now with confidence. Big hello to you, so great to see you, hope I find you well. Sorry about the stuttering intro. Crapdos has decided to try and downdate the computer, and it spitefully does that if you refuse to reboot, because, you know, you might be wanting to use the computer. So that's what was happening there, if anybody was wondering why it sounded like junk. Yeah, another advert not to use Microsoft products. A big hello to Ben Tull at Hillside Junction, Ruben Ashwell, Valleys 56XX, Joe BVR, Simon Trent Mother Showcase, Peter Jackson Cheadle Heath, Joshua W56, AD Pullen, Dion Wollaston, Sarah Davis, Robert Becking, Ben Tullett, Harry Sedgwick, Ian O'Brien, Busby Junction, Michael Rose, Zantec, Flymo Chairman 1, Rick Morley, Leslie Gilpin Railways, John JMC, our guru of sound, Samuel Ives, Ruben Ashwell, Mel's, Mike Lane, TT120, Jerry BVR, Patrick Ling, Warbler Productions, great to see you. Hope you had a good holiday. And Hermitage Road, Ham Shackleton, Mousehole Rails, Stephen Turner. We've got a great turnout here today. Don't forget to tickle that like button, share the stream on social media, really important. And if you haven't already done so, do please subscribe to the channel, ring that bell, all the usual goodness. You can also check us out over on Patreon and help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see, or become a channel member for those great perks here in the Monday Club, plus ad-free access to the Friday video. So, what's in the news? Well, I suppose the biggest thing is the S160 announced from Rapido. Now, this has been a long time coming. Certainly, the last Hornby announcements, lots of people in the comments saying, "Oh, I really wanted an S160," and I'm not really quite sure why people were assuming that Hornby would be launching an S160. But I have known for over a year that Rapido were working on the S160. It's one of the things that I've had to keep quiet about. But it has...
Believe me, guys, that's hard because Jen doesn't like to keep quiet at all.
Yeah, and the reason that I know about this is, and just in case Andrew Hardy is watching from Rapido Trains going, "What? Who told you?" I found out simply because I'd been helping out a different company that was looking at making it, and they then found out early on that another manufacturer was working on it, so decided to step back. So you be rest assured that Rapido Trains have been working on the S160 for probably at least 18 months, if not more. And, oh, I don't know why that... I've just noticed one of the trains has decided it'd be really cool to go the wrong way, and I don't know why. Oh, it's... We've got one of those, it's probably got one of those garbage decoders that does stupid things, and it's decided to change its running direction. So there we are, I just fixed that. But anyway, yes, the S160, Big Jim, it was a USA-built locomotive, brought in during the Second World War in great numbers, mostly used across Europe, and in fact, Roco did make their own version of it, albeit in HO. And what's just happened now?
Well, I was trying to go to the back rear yard camera, and it turns out that everything was turned off.
Hey, what?
Yeah, we're having issues tonight. Just leave it alone. I'm getting on.
Has Crapdo's been fiddling with stuff it shouldn't have?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Right. Right on Track says evening all been longer than 18 months. Oh my word. Russell Benton says that would have been KR Models then. Yes. So
we'd like to point out that
I don't work for.
Although people do continue to say it, Jen does not work for KR Models.
Yeah.
And the people that keep saying it on the forums, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, Aaronville says I've succumbed to buying the Jenny Kirk Palbrick from says Rails of Scotland. I think it's Rails of Sheffield. Before they run out, Jenny and Zoe, will you both please sign the wagon at Getz on Saturday the 14th? Yes, we certainly will. If anybody wants. I mean, the wagon, we will caution against us signing the wagon because it might look a bit peculiar on your layout. But
we're
we'll
happy
certainly,
to sign whatever you want, but here's the thing.
We'll certainly sign the box.
If you sign the wagon, it'll look outsized.
It'll look silly. But if if people really insist on that, we obviously will. But we would caution against it. But yes, we will certainly sign boxes for people. Definitely... anybody it gets. I will try and get, if there are any left, there may be a few, because what tends to happen is that there's a small number of people who will order stuff and then never pay for them. Obviously they don't get them for free, but it ties up stock for a bit until basically Rails get sick and tired of asking them to pay. So, and also you may have noticed that places like Rails are very good at finding stuff in that Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque warehouse of theirs. It's like, oh, we found a big box full of stuff we forgot we had. So if there are any that turn up, then we will bring them along to get, hopefully. But yeah, the S160, they only really ran in the UK during the Second World War, pretty much just before they headed overseas. So not a locomotive that was absorbed into BR stock, although the USA dock tanks from the Baldwin Locomotive Works were. Yes, I would love a drink, thank you very much. So I shall give Zoe the green flag of go.
We do want... hold up the red flag again.
Oh yeah, we've been doing some colour correcting.
And it seems to have decided not to keep it.
So we did colour correct, and it seems to have gone back to orange. So what I would like is for Zoe to stop fiddling, because we are now busy. So leave it alone. Stop messing about. But of course there are. There's at least one preserved, and might be two that are preserved in the UK. One at the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway, which is the one which I believe that Rapido measured up. And loose lips sink ships. A lot of people have been talking about this. This is like the biggest open secret so far that I'm aware of in the industries. Alan Pollock says, hi guys, I'm a bit late.
The Monday Clubber is never late to the wagons, nor are they early. They arrive precisely when they mean to.
Thanks, Gandalf.
You're welcome. I'm going to find some biscuits.
Yeah, you may find that the shop is where you need to go, Gandalf. Pay your way instead of eating all our biscuits. Right, Chobberton Junction, great to see you. Wiven Model Railway, we've got quite a few new names in. Quite a few names that I've not seen for a while. Iron Horse Railway says, Hornby were going to make the S160, but thankfully decided against spraying up a smoky Joe. That's not entirely fair, but you may have seen that I got an exclusive interview with Montana Huron from Hornby, and that went out over the weekend on Saturday. Proved to be a very popular video, and I don't know why, but interviews with Montana Huron are really, really difficult to come by. I think she's done some obviously on the Hornby social media, so Hornby have interviewed their own staff. But in terms of independent videos, I've never seen anybody interview her before. And we were at the Making Tracks exhibition, Making Tracks 3 at Chester Cathedral. And both Mike and Monty from Hornby were there doing their own social media content. And we're literally just days before Montana moves on to her new job. So it was great to sit down with her. We just grabbed her and said, well, would you be okay doing a 5-minute interview? Because obviously Once she leaves Hornby, she'll have moved on and probably wouldn't really want to talk about a previous employer if we could track her down. So yeah, she said, yeah, sure. So we did a lovely little interview, and that's gone out, and it has done really, really well. Ollie's Trains, big hello to you. Great to see you. I hope you find you well. 3B Rail, Wardle Road. This is good evening, Joey, Jenny, and all in chat. Now, Wardle Road, a lot of people have been sending him information about there is a Class 14 for sale at the MC and Bolton Abbey Railway, which incidentally I believe is where you got your Ruston from, Ollie. But I think that the Class 14, you did say a little bit more expensive. But certainly if anybody has extraordinarily deep pockets, and remember, buying is probably just the start of that money pit of a route. Repairs, maintaining, moving the damn thing is all a big deal. So if you've got exceptionally deep pockets, then there is a Class 14 for sale. And yes, I would like it. No, I can't afford it. And just remember, if you have to ask how much it is, you can't afford it. Seriously, if you say, well, how much is it? You can't afford it. Simple as that. Hello to Darian Wilcox, great to see you. Hot Dog Pilot Andy as well. Walter Hope Valley, Railway Enthusiast says, I'm booked in the Holiday Inn at Milton Keynes on the Saturday till Sunday. Oh, excellent. And Wardle Road says, yeah, it's the same owners too. So from the people that you got the Ruston from. And Wardle Road says, if you have deep pockets, do get in touch. Oh, thank you very much. You got
I don't know where you put your glass, just drink out of it.
Okay, so we're going to chug it uncouth youth style. So, beverage of choice is Diet Coke. And I do hate these new tops. There we go, fixed it for you, Coca-Cola. I do hate these new tops. If you need to go and have a lie down, Cupboard Monkey, you go and have a lie down.
Good.
The Cupboard Monkey's not so great at the moment, so I will repeat again. Cupboard Monkey, if you need to go and have a lie down for a bit, you go and do that, yeah? So, the Cupboard Monkey's not great at the moment. She will be back for Gamehammer Classic Gaming tonight. And
the heat that we've had while we were travelling back and we got delayed in the
it
car
is warm,
yesterday.
isn't it? Yeah.
And it's just been so hot ever since.
It has been humid.
It's hurt me, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Ruben Ashwell, you and me both. They're nasty, aren't they? And it's like, what is that about? And they go, oh, it's to help recycling. It's like, well, you know what? I'm not a child. I screw the top back on the bottle before it goes back in the recycling.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, we have to, as a society, walk at the speed of our
Yeah.
members.
That's it. I mean, I drive cars fast like a champ, but because some people can't wrap them around telegraph poles, apparently we've got to drive at a slower speed. Harry Sedgwick says the United States Army Transportation Corps S-160 Class 280s introduced in 1942 as a designed heavy freight work in Europe during World War II. The thing about the S-160s is most of them went to the railways across Europe, the ones that survived. Because during the war, a lot of equipment got destroyed, both through enemy fire, but also enemy action. So there was a lot of locomotive stock that needed replacing. And the S-160s were, I guess, one of the locomotive types that stayed on after the war. Though, of course, the 8F, the Stania 8F was another one which we built a lot of. A lot of them ending up all across Europe and beyond, getting out as far as Iraq and Iran, which was then known as Persia, I believe, and there's a rumour that some got as far as China. Same for the Robinson 8K, although that's more of a First World War thing, but some of them did get far and wide. And there were also the War Department 210s and the 280s. Now, the 280s were ones which were BR ended up with a lot of them. I'm not sure. Did BR end up with the 210s, or did they end up just going abroad? Sarah Davis says, when you're driving a car and trying to drink out of a Diet Coke bottle, that bottle cap does get in the way. It's like when they changed the ring pulls on cans in the late 80s. I'll be honest, I prefer the new style ring pulls. Anybody old enough to remember the older style ring pulls? The big issue with them was that once you pulled it, you were left with a piece of bent sharp metal, and people used to just chuck them down, and then animals would cut their paws or hooves or whatever on them. So they were a real nuisance, and I believe that was the main reason that those cans were redesigned. And when you look back now at an old style can, they do look very archaic. Although I do understand the argument that the newer style, you're getting that dirty piece of metal that people have been fingering and licking the top of the can in the shop. That's then going in your drink. Caroline Rogers, good evening to you. Great to see you. Hope I find you well. Wardle Road says, thoughts on all Freightliners Class 86s heading to Europe? None kept for preservation, unsurprisingly. I think mostly because commercially they have a value as a locomotive, just not in the UK for various reasons. So whether some might get preserved in the future, I don't know. Locomotives have come back from abroad in the future. And I guess they're going the same way as the 87s. A lot of them went abroad. Now there are, is it 2 preserved 86s in the UK? Is it indeed, Ollie? 86622 even taken away from Crewe Heritage Centre, says Peter Jackson, Cheadle Heath. So does that mean that the ones that were notionally preserved have been sold as well? Vanley's 56XX says 25 Austerity 210s went into BR service. Others went to the Netherlands, Greece, Syria, and 2 to the Longmoor Military Railway. So some did serve in the UK with BR. Walter Hope Valley Railway enthusiast says, where are you based? Oh, sorry, talking to somebody else. Paul Murphy says, did Jenny and Zoe have a good weekend? Yes, we did. We did the family thing. So we went off to Durham. We did a massive epic road trip up to Durham and spent the weekend with family. So obviously we got everything recorded in advance. But that's where we were away. We decided, because we're a couple of weeks ahead on our videos, and we do this on purpose so we can try and have a week off. So what we decided to do was to actually just have a weekend where we didn't take the cameras. We just, it was just Jenny and Zoe, private citizens. That's exactly what we did. Now, Peter Jackson Cheadle here says, no, 86101 and 86259 are both preserved. Flammer Chairman 1 says, yes, I read of a time limit on 1/8F in Turkey in the railway papers. Yeah, there was some that were repatriated, the 8Fs, comparatively recently. I think in the 1990s. I could be wrong about that. Adrian Olsen Woodturning says, am I allowed to have a 5-star whinge on here on a certain Hellion loco I've just purchased? Absolutely. We don't like to censor people unless you're just being offensive. But yeah, I mean, sometimes duds get through. Unfortunately, in any mass-produced product, you're always going to have a few duds. And I suppose the big test is what the manufacturer or the retailer you buy it from does in respect of dealing with that when it happens. Ollie's Train says, my mate got a Class 14 brand new and has had issues with it, such as clicking round third radius and cutting out on points. He doesn't have these issues with other locos, $149.99, and left disappointed. One of the issues, certainly with the earlier, the first batch, the 8-pin interface Hellion Class 14s, is that the crank axle had too much side play. And that meant on tight curves, it could actually catch on the steps. And that was one of the reasons that motors were getting burnt out on those initial ones. Although I did have my first batch, class 14, I'm looking at it now, is why I'm glancing up. That actually, I'm just going to move the mouse over here because I'm going to have to go solo on making things work. And of course, Crapdos has decided to try for a downgrade, so it's messing with our cameras at the moment. Yeah, its motor just burnt out all on its own. I did replace it, and it's worked absolutely fine ever since. But that was one of the issues with those. If it's cutting out on points, I would suggest check the pickups. You can fit a stay alive. I know people say, well, you shouldn't have to. But yes, that is the case, but it can be a fix to issues like that. And certainly, Daypole Class 73s can be notoriously jittery on track. Certainly on DCC, it really does show up. And I fitted stay alives to both of mine, and it has just transformed their reliability. Adrian Olsen, Wood and Woodturner, says it's a lovely logo, the Class 33 runs well, but the lighting is awful. It's completely useless on DCC, can't see anything. Has anyone out there replaced the incandescent bulbs with LEDs? Yes, you can, and yes, I have. On one somewhere, I used the DCC Concepts nano LEDs, and I just outright replaced the incandescent bulbs, which if you're going to be running it on DCC, it's probably a good thing to do. Now, I will say that the newest batch of Hellion Class 33s have LEDs rather than incandescent bulbs, which is a good thing because the incandescent bulbs can put too much of a strain on DCC decoders, and that in turn can risk making them run hot, can damage them. I would suggest that actually if you want to keep the lights, and it's a really good upgrade project too, because whilst you're in there you can add in extra functions. Things like working cab lights are quite easy to do, because after all, if you're already in there replacing the incandescent bulbs with nano LEDs, why not add a couple more on unused functions and give yourself some working cab lights? Wardle Road says no harm in using stay alives for any model railway scenario, always benefits the loco. Yeah, it's really a cost benefit and a cost benefit analysis. Is it worth the money you expend? And there's quite a lot of locomotives that, in all honesty, I find no need whatsoever to be adding in stay alives to. So it just becomes wasted money in a way. But then there's others where they massively benefit from it. And no matter how good your track is, some locomotives, they're either too light, too short a wheelbase, and become very prone to issues. Andy T741 says, evening Jenny and Zoe and all Monday clubbers. I'm a year older today. Totally forgot till my dad gave me a card this morning. I do that. I forget my birthdays. So, la 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 la. Hold on. Need to get the note correct. Happy birthday to you. Squash tomatoes and stew. Bread and butter in the gutter. Happy birthday to you. There we go. So well done. But yeah, I forget my own birthday as well. It started happening from late teens. When I went to university, there was no real impetus to actually remember my own birthday. So I did. It loses, like, believe me, any of you who were in your teens now go, but how can you forget your birthdays? They're great. Yeah, when you get older, the novelty really does wear off. And once everything that can be legal is legal, so certainly if you're an American, 21, anything past 21, why? I can already do everything that I can legally do. It is very warm up here, so I'm just going to... there we are, ready for the recycling. You squash all the air out so it doesn't fill up your recycling bin, and you screw the top back on. I don't need those sort of pee-wee weenie rubbish on the top. There we go. Right. Russell Benton says, Ben, I think the official announcement on S160 is the 28th of August. Oh, But Rapido posted on the Book of Face about that. Iron Horse Railway says, I'm very pro Stay Alive, so pleased to Curascale include them with their locos. Hopefully other manufacturers will follow suit, as it's a great idea, especially for sound locos. Yes, I would agree with you. Sound locos definitely need them more than non-sound locos. And the reason for that is with the sound loco, it can become very obvious if you get a bit of a judder, because the sound really shows it up. So a sound-fitted locomotive really does run a lot better with that. I'd also say, you know, some people say O gauge doesn't need a Stay Alive because of the weight, but I'm running trains in the garden, so I've taken to fitting Stay Alives as standard on O gauge models because you've got plenty of space to do it, and it's just peace of mind out in the garden. Leslie Gilpin Railway says, I saw an S160 in a park in Anchorage. They are out there, actually. I think there's 2 in the UK. One at the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway. Possibly one at the Severn Valley Railway. I'm not sure where the other one would be. Chief89 says, Gamehammer fan here. Tuning in early, I guess. And hello, everyone. Although I did have a Roco layout back in the 80s. Sadly, not ever about since then. You had a Roco Loco. Roco, actually, pretty good brand. I do have a couple. But welcome along. We are a broad church here at the Monday Club, and everybody is always welcome. So thank you for coming. It's great to see you. Please tickle the like button if you haven't already done so, and share the video on social media. Let other people know that we're live and dangerous. And if you haven't already done so, do please tickle the like button. I've just said that. Do please subscribe. Oh, you can tell it's quite warm up here. I'm going to move this up here, and hopefully we won't get any sound transference. So I'm just going to put that up there. So you probably see the flags flapping behind me, just emphasising their existence. Iron Horse Railway says, I agree with you, Jen. I've known one I gauge locos just stall like OO. And that should be O gauge, especially as you say, out in the yard it makes even more sense. I wonder if you could adapt one of the Buddhas to fit the TXS. The TXS, the HM7000 decoders, have that plug-in power bank, which does give, I think it's been measured on some locos, as much as 9-10 seconds of run-on, which is quite... It's excessive for a lot of things, but certainly out in the garden, I've found super reliable running from those, and there will be a garden railway video, because I've let the cat out of the bag there a bit. Yes, trains are now running in the garden, although this Friday you'll get the next video in the garden railway series. I do always film a couple of videos ahead. So do look out for that. We're going to be doing the ballasting, and actually the ballasting came together incredibly well, but for the details you will have to see Friday's video. Dundas Junction Model Railroad, I think it's a Model RR. James says, good afternoon everyone. Good afternoon to you. Great to see you, and I hope I find you well. And Jerry BVR says, evening to you. Wolfsex Scenics PW. There you are, yeah. Wolfsex Scenics PW, great to see you. We're getting some really nice names here that I haven't noticed before, so it's great to see you. If maybe you've been a lurker before, that's okay. Lots of people lurk on the Monday Club stream, but also if you're new to us here, then please subscribe, and it's always great to have your company. Oh wow, 3B Rail has very, very kindly on the super chat donated £10 and says, hi Jenny, I don't have deep pockets for a class 14 but enjoy this small donation. Oh well, thank you so much, and so great of you, and absolutely, as always, blown away by you guys' generosity. Thank you so much. It does help to keep the lights on. Devon and Cornwall train videos says, good evening all. I think Gandalf is down reading Zoe a bedtime story. I don't think he quite worked out that she's going to be getting up in an hour or so. But Gandalf's not up here, so you've escaped the Gandalfing. But Big hello to you. Great to see you, and I hope you are well. That Oswestry Road TMD says, hi, Jen and fellow Monday Clubbers. Hope you're well. Wardle Roll says, 3B Rail. That will buy one switch inside the Class 14's cab. So it's a start. Absolutely. It's like every little gets you somewhere. And certainly, I know that Laurie's Mechanical Marvels, who you saw in the rather jittery intro, thanks to the Microsoft Crapdo's downgrade that it's trying to foist on us, he's currently restoring a Ruston, and I think he's finding how expensive things can be. Inoxian Models, big hello to you, says, good evening, continuing to design kits, just released a kit of the Crooked House pub so it can be memorialised on all that. Hey, actually, that's a great idea. I mean, it's been an absolute tragedy. We're seeing how it's playing out, but certainly for those of you abroad, it might seem like a slightly strange thing, but in the UK we do take our heritage incredibly seriously. And the Crooked Pub, if you've never heard of it, it's a public house where, due to mining subsidence in the early part of the 19th century, the entire building started to sink on one side. And normally these things would just get demolished as unsafe, but for whatever reason, it got massive buttresses built at one side to support it. It's got steel tie bars through it. Well, it did. And it became quite an attraction. It got turned into a public house, a place where us Brits like to drink slightly warm beer. Actually, I've never been to a pub and got slightly warm beer from the taps. I think that's a misnomer. But very, very famous because the optical illusion, you could make bottles and marbles look like they were rolling uphill. And it was because the windows were still aligned to the angle of the original house before it subsided. Ben Tullett, yes, Microsoft Update equals Billy Gates replacement software. A Partick Hill Station says, Jenny, what are you using to broadcast? We use OBS, which is free to use software, and it does seem to do the job. Lifestyle Unleashed says, do we know anything on the new management structure at Hornby yet? Now, I was told... Oh, it's going to kill our viewing.
Right, I think we're back.
So, are we streaming?
Everything's gone weird. But it looks like we are live.
So, are we actually...
We are live. Hello.
So, the Stream Deck has lost its
Yes,
thing.
I'm sure it has.
So, are we back? I can't actually read your comments at the moment. We're having huge issues here. As you can imagine,
Yes, we're back.
Crapdos is garbage. And what it's done is it seems to have just decided to destroy the stream. But we are back. So hopefully all is well now.
It froze at the point of Hornby management, says David Shaw.
Hornby management, right. Speaking to Montana at the Cathedral in Chester, she says that they're going to be promoting from within. I believe it's somebody from Scale Electrics who is being moved up into Montana's position at Hornby itself. I won't really know for certain until after, I think it's the 24th, when Montana officially finishes. So we'll just wait and see. Let's just see. Yeah, Stream Deck's crashed.
Yeah, well, I can't do anything about that right now.
Yeah, so I don't know what's gone on there.
Yeah,
we appear to have lost a lot of...
We lost over 100 people when that crashed.
It's weird, isn't it? They bail out so quickly. Oh, it's crashed. I'm
But
gone.
now we're back up to 240 now. We've lost 30 people because of that crash.
30
we lost
people.
100, but 70 came back. And to be honest with you, I can't blame them for dropping out. Because this sort of thing, sometimes it kicks you out at the same time as crashing it.
Yeah, okay, well, anyway, so if I can get the chat back...
Oh, what do you want the chat back for? Are you trying to host a show or something?
Do you have any idea what's up with the Stream Deck?
I will deal with that now. I can only deal with one thing at once.
Okay, less chipper more doing. Stevie Film says, try not to make any noise, Frodo. They may notice when we arrive. The chat seems to have gone back. That's not up to date, I don't think.
Okay, well, I'll drop that and I'll bring this up and then I'll pop this out. How's that? It looks like everything's fine from here.
It just looked like it was suddenly jumped back in time.
Right, okay.
So, all the stuff that said, "Oh, we're back," has just disappeared.
Well, no. That's
yeah,
up there.
Yeah, scroll down. David Scott says, Iron Horse Railways photobombed your video with Montana. Well, if anybody who looked carefully would have noticed that Montana photobombed my interview with Pete Waterman. Looking rather shocked when she realised that we were filming. She was just like, la 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 la.
If you watch carefully on Hornby, I'm in the background of their video.
Oh, have you actually been and checked? Oh my word, Tim Krinsky!
Oh,
I just gifted 50 memberships. Thank you so much for your generosity. You didn't have to, but you were so generous. Oh wow! So there's a whole load of people are going to suddenly find that they've been gifted a Jenny Kirk Monday Club membership, channel membership, and this does give you a early access to Friday's video ad-free, and you also get a whole host of extra benefits in the chat here. So thank you so much. I have no idea how it kind of allocates the free ones, but you'll see on your screen at the moment a lot of people are getting free memberships. So
thank you so much, Tim.
Big hello to New Junction. I did see you turn 00 Forever, Ashley HD, Right on Track, Wigwag Workshop, the Board Pilot, David McConnell, Catherine Norman, Jamie, Matthew M. Sellerton. I think it's actually a lot of these people are the people who normally don't say anything in the chat, so that's why there's so many names which haven't seen before. But thank you so much.
Although some of them we do recognise. James Pets there.
Yeah, James Pets, we do approve. So the man from James Pets, he says yes.
Thank you so much. I know that you have to have the ability to be gifted a membership turned on.
Oh, right. How does that work? Do you have to have that in your...
It's somewhere hidden in settings that I cannot remember where it is. I can't tell you how. Right, Jen.
Yes?
I am a physical and mental wreck today.
Yes. You going back to...
So I am going out to get cans of Coke and some chocolate because it'll make me feel better. Would you like some chocolate?
I don't think it's too warm for chocolate. I think chocolate on a hot day is not a good thing.
Would you like a Snickers ice cream?
Always.
Okay.
Look, it's done it again. It's going backwards.
Yeah, nothing works today. Your Stream Deck is working now.
Yeah.
Guys, I hope that you're all having a good night. You don't have to worry about us. Jen is work to the bone. I'm work to the bone. And the fact is, sorry if we seem like we're a little bit off. We have been...
Yeah, things are trying to test us at the moment, and it's
well, it's not just that, but we have been trying our hardest to get a couple of weeks ahead on videos so that we could have a week off and then still have buffer. And it kind of pushes you. When you're essentially working for yourself, you don't get time off unless you work hard before it. And that's what we did, and now we're regretting it because we're worn out.
So, big hello to J94, Mapplewell Park, says the Intercity 47 looks good. Absolutely. That Intercity 47 is actually the Somerset Andy one. Somerset Andy, very, very generous YouTuber, sadly passed away, will be missed, and we have immortalised his name, a screen name, in our Patreon thanks, simply as an acknowledgement of the generosity that he showed, not just to this channel, but to a lot of other people as well. And that Class 47 that's doing the rounds is actually one that he just sent to me. At the time, I remember mentioning that I didn't have a Class 47. And he just sent me one, and it was just incredible. That was the kind of generosity that Somerset Andy was, and he will be massively missed in the community.
He absolutely will be.
So occasionally we do like to run that locomotive specifically in remembrance of Somerset Andy. Gregory Callow says, I wish Australia cared about its heritage like they do in the UK. Yeah, I think it's in the UK we do
Australia
seem to be...
does care about its heritage. I know that one of their oldest theatres, for example, has a policy where you can't smoke or hold liquids on stage because the carpet is the original from when it was produced. It's a listed carpet, one of the
A
in the world,
listed carpet.
because it's an example of how they made stuff when Australia was founded.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, so the Crooked House, there does seem to have been something crooked going on.
I wouldn't talk too much at the moment because investigations and potentially prosecutions are going to happen from that.
But based on what's been posted online, the fire, they were investigating it as being potentially arson, and then the owners of the place had it demolished. That seems a bit weird. But also the fire brigade reported, and have photographic evidence to back this up, that access roads to the property were blocked by fly-tipped piles of earth and rubble to prevent access to the building. It would appear, and this is what has been opined by the fire service, to prevent them from getting close enough to put it out quickly. These are all the reasons that it's pointing to something dodgy going on. But there is precedent in the UK. We don't mess about. If we decide somebody really has been up to no good, Britain has this thing where it's like, well, you will not profit from your crime. And it has been known for a developer to be ordered to reassemble a building brick by brick to how it was. And there was a pub in London that a developer tried to demolish unscrupulously, and they were made to restore it. And as you can imagine, that's very expensive to do.
It's more expensive than buying the place.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, that's. I think it's an ongoing thing. And Zantek says just before the fire, a JCB was hired. Strange that. But rest assured, if things point to it being a criminal act, then they will most likely be made to reassemble the building. You can imagine that will cost millions.
I hope it bankrupts them.
And then at the end, they're back to where they were at the start. Before.
No, they won't be.
Well, no, as in they'll be back to the point where the building is sat there on the land, going, "Hello, I'm back." But anyway, Andy T741 says yes, and the diggers were on the other side of the blocked road. Interesting. Lifestyle Unleashed says, if anyone has a Hornby Daypole Terrier in green with a good chassis but damaged body, I need a good running chassis for a project. In green? I'm assuming you mean the old one, not the new one.
I'll be back.
I only have, and these are just leftovers. I don't consider them part of my actual collection. But I do have two of the old style Hornby Terriers, but they're with brown wheels.
Isn't that the one that you froze?
Yes, this is the one that we froze in a block of ice. Should have been a viral video, but for strange reasons, YouTube went, no. So we actually, hardcore, did it properly. We put it in a bowl of water and then froze that water with this inside. So it was literally encased inside its own little mini iceberg. And when it thawed out, it still worked. And I'm looking at it now. It seems to have, in the warm weather, reverted back to its original shape. There were a few areas where it looked like it had been pushed a little bit by the ice and it had started to bow. Well, funnily enough, in the warm weather, and it's just been sat up there for, it must be nearly a year since we did that video. And it has returned to its original shape. And I'm just looking at it now. There was a crack on it, and the crack has actually closed up, which is quite incredible.
See if you can run it sometime, that'll be fun.
It won't run on Weir Yard because it's a DC locomotive. And whilst it is very easy to hardwire one of these, there is nowhere inside it to put the decoder. So I've actually got.
To put it in, like, the driver's area.
You'd have to put it in the cab, and they probably wouldn't run that great. But I've got Whitechapel, which, funnily enough, I think this was this and Sutton, which is the green one you're probably looking for, were the final two locomotives that were released by Hornby from the old tooling. And they were at an amazing price as part of their collectors club, which I was a member of at the time. And I think they were selling them at £35 each. So I bought one of each. The other one, the chassis, is underneath a Nwin's 3D model.
But here's the thing. This is the most popular thing that's on Jen's layout. It's a 100% realistic Sodor plastic wagon.
Oh.
And everyone needs one of these.
Leslie Gilpin Railways goes, white chocolate Lidl Magnum knockoff.
I'm still amazed Lidl gets away with all the crap.
And
they do.
Wamgok
Lidl
says...
and Aldi, my goodness.
Wamgok says John could sort it. That would be John JMC, our guru of sound. Yes, he could. John JMC, our guru of sound, could quite easily fit this with Stay Alive, sound installation, mega bass speaker, and get all that in there without you knowing anything otherwise. But doing that to the old style Hornby tooling Terrier would be very much like polishing a turd. You can put a lot of work in, but when you're done, it's still a turd.
Jen, could you just turn that way a moment? People are asking where Piggly Wiggly is, and I don't want
Piggly Wiggly!
I don't want to do a certain thing that would.
You know the noise of you doing that is tremendous. So I've just turned on Piggly Wiggly. Those issues.
Yeah, this is Windows. We have not changed a damn thing, but Windows has decided to drop everything out.
Yeah, basically, Windowser has decided that what it's going to do is to try and blackmail us into restarting our computer because it has the arrogance to think that it is the only important thing in the room.
Yeah.
So, right, yeah, we just 80 Pullen, we just put 50p in the meter.
So
Egg Rider
I'm going to
is
say
back.
this with 100% sincerity.
Yes.
Do not ever buy Windows.
No, don't give them any money. They don't deserve it. Buy an Apple Mac or try and get Linux to work.
Yeah.
So it might not do.
Patronization that Microsoft puts in there. Oh, well, you don't seem to be listening to our statements here. Where we told you what's best for you, and you didn't listen, so we're going to cause trouble for you. Do not ever buy Windows.
But what gets me is, right, Microsoft is an American company, but how deeply un-American is that kind of thing? That's damn near communism. Mapplewell Park says, I have Hornby, Duke of Sutherland and Lady Patricia, both from the 80s. Would hardwiring to DCC ruin them? Would they run well? They have a lot of sentimental value, so wouldn't want to spoil them. It wouldn't change the way they run. Essentially, they will run... The motor will work the same after as before. It's whether or not... if you've gone fully DCC, then it is a worthwhile thing to do because then it means you can use them on your layout. Now, I did the DCC fit for the, I think it was the city, Duchess of Gloucester.
Oh, and for those of you saying, well, Bill Gates is not a well-known leftist, avoid Bill Gates.
Bill Gates isn't
hasn't been
involved anymore.
with Microsoft for over a decade, probably 20 years. It's not him. It's whoever runs it now. The same way that Apple went downhill the moment that Steve Jobs stepped down. And then when he came back, it came back up. And then when he died, it went back downhill again. Unfortunately, it's not the people who found these things that are the issue. It's the ones that come after and have no bloody idea what they're doing.
Retro Ramble says, anyone else miss model shops? I've been recently making some Gunpla, and I'm in the mood to make some model tanks with mini dioramas. Loved going to the model shop on a Saturday and buying kit and paint. It's one of those things. Unfortunately, the high street as a whole has struggled a lot. Let's just change the angle of the dangle there. Let's just there we go. Unfortunately, the high street as a whole has suffered. changing buying habits. And, you know, as much as people lament, like, oh, Amazon is taking over the world, it's like, yeah, but if you're buying stuff from Amazon rather than from the high street, you're part of the reason. And you could argue that, you know, but surely if Amazon is very successful, maybe they're doing something right. Unfortunately, model shops are just one of the many types of shops that have suffered. You know, I've seen bookshops, record shops, there are two more that have largely disappeared off the high street. When I was at university, there were 3 big chains of booksellers in the UK, plus add to that WH Smith's and a few others. So we had Ottakar's, we had Dillon's, and we had Waterstones. And now Last Man Standing is Waterstones, and they are struggling a little bit at times, certainly diversifying away from books in a lot of their shops. Model shops, use them or lose them. And there are still model shops out there, a lot less than there were. But there are some great model shops that are very, very good at adapting to the times. Now, Great Eastern Models, I think they're in Norwich, they've been very, very good. A really great social media presence, so you know about them. Events in their shops, that's something as well we've seen with Rails of Sheffield and the Rails Rummage. And that's a great way of getting people interested in going to model shops. And I think that the model shops that do try and adapt will survive. And when you go to these model shops, one of the things that I do like is having a rummage through the different paints. I don't always know what it is I want to buy before I go in there. People say, oh yeah, are you looking for anything in particular? No, I'm browsing. And browsing is a thing where it's like I'm looking to be inspired by what I physically see. I don't know what I want. I didn't come in here for something specific. And you don't get that with online purchasing. You try and go and look through the online listings for somewhere like Hatton's or Kerno Model Centre or wherever other retailers are available. It's very difficult to browse and outside of things like locomotives and rolling stock and go, oh yes, I could do with one of those, or oh, I like the look of that. In the same way that you can in a model shop. Aaronville says, I live in Norwich, Great Eastern Model Shop is great. Absolutely, and they've really embraced social media. They've just had an open day over this weekend where they've had layouts in, which is really, really great. And I would actually hold up Great Eastern Models as being a great example of a model shop that has embraced the modern age and used it to its own advantage. Carlton Tweedle says, not on Facebook, never will be. Yeah, I mean, I understand there's a lot of people who don't do Facebook, but similarly, there's a lot more people who do. Jerry BVR says, you don't know what you want, but you'll know when you see it. Yes! Just like the little centre, yeah, the little mystery aisle. Could be wetsuits, could be woodworking gear. You don't know till you get there. And it absolutely, all the things you didn't know you wanted. And it's usually the little things as well. Yeah, Sarah Davis is middle of Lidl and Aldi is brilliant. We always call it the Aldi mystery aisle because you never knew what you were going to find. Bluegrass Rail fans, as I remember the days when, is it Louisville or Louisville in Kentucky had 5 to 6 model train shops across town. You could apparently the cover monkey calls to me and said Louisville. You could pretty much spend an entire day just browsing for trains if you wanted. Yeah, I mean, I remember in Bolton, there was Bolton Model Mart, which has now become Nuffy's Models. But on top of that, there was Boydell Toys, then Whittaker's, which then became, oh, I forget what it became. It was a big department store. Unfortunately, it's gone now. They had a toy department at model trains. There was another model shop if you went up on Halliwell Road. I remember that one. I can't remember what it was called, but I do remember being taken there by my dad. And then there was also the Farnworth Model Centre if you went just a little bit further afield. And then further over, Loco Shed in Whitehead, they are still there. Then there was also the one at Holton Model Centre. So there used to be a lot of model shops, and they're just the ones that I knew about, a lot of model shops in Bolton. Now we're down to last man standing in the form of Nuffy's Models. Just some northerner says, I'm good, cheers, how's yourself? Oh, I think you're talking to somebody else. Sarah Davis says, when you want to make a pizza while putting up shelves, go to Lidl. And Blue Glass Rail fan confirms it's Louisville. Flyman Chairman wants says there's a lot of folks don't do YouTube too. What's X again? Yes, X is the artist formerly known as Twitter. Why? Tweeting was in the dictionary. You know, Xing just sounds like you've dumped somebody. Brian Talmer says, I use Smith's Model Railways in Sheringham. And that's great. In fact, if you want to name check your local model shop, do please go ahead. The more the merrier. Lots and lots of model shops still out there. Aaronville says, Langley's in the centre of Norwich used to have model railway stuff. Now just have models. Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, J. Paul Anderson, absolutely. X sounds like a porn site. Peter Jackson Cheadle Heath says the Manchester Ian Allen shop was great. Yes, on station approach to Piccadilly railway station, and of course the Model Zone Empire. I think somebody mentioned them. Yeah, in Oxy Models, there's a lot of model shops were lost to the Model Zone intrusion. And it's a shame, really, because Model Zone did promise so much, and for a while it was a great high street presence of model shops. But when you dug into it, a lot of that expansion had come by effectively buying up local model shops. So you're looking at the model shop in Chester. Trafford Model Centre sold all of its stores, locations to Model Zone. There was one in Doncaster as well. And the Signal Box in Rochester, and unfortunately, when Model Zone went bust, we lost a lot of that. Now it was gratifying to see that I think Chester Model Centre re-emerged from the ashes. The one in Doncaster, Tags Models, dredging the back of my memory. Some of these reappeared, and also TMC. Bought their trading name back off Model Zone and re-established as a... They do have a bricks and mortar shop, but also primarily online. Mousehole Rail says, I remember Model Zone, which the nearest one for me was Plymouth in Devon, but it's gone now. And they used to be all over. I mean, I can remember going to the Metro Centre in Durham. In it's Gateshead. Durham. Gateshead. People call it Newcastle, it's Gateshead, and going to the Model Zone there, and I can remember the last time I went there, when it was still operating, I just that morning been looking at eBay listings for the RTC coaches, and it was the Pullman coach from Bachmann, Laboratory 14 Wren, and they were changing hands for silly money. And at the time, silly money meant £70. I know now there's brand new coaches going for £70 plus. But back then, your average coach would have been about between probably 15 to 20, £25 tops. And second hand, Laboratory 14 Wren, which was a Model Zone special commission of that particular RTC item, they were sold out at Model Zone and going on eBay for £70. And it just stuck it. I wasn't in the market for one. It just stuck in my mind. And then we went to the Metro Centre at Gateshead. And, because it would have been rude not to, I went into the Model Zone, and tucked away at the back of the cabinet, they still had a Laboratory 14 that had kind of got overlooked. And it's like, I'm having that. And I bought it for its original price, which I think was about... it was probably about £25, to be honest with you. Certainly no more than 30, and I bought it knowing full well that I could have flipped it on eBay for, more than doubled my money. I didn't do that. I do still have that coach, but it became a memorable trip. Vic Freak says, I remember going to BT's buying Lima locos at £19 each, Christ, that makes me feel old. Yes, I remember BT's. And of course, BT's, a lot of the BT stores were bought out by Model Zone, and the one in the Metro Centre, I can remember going there in the, would have been the late 90s, so probably actually no, mid 1990s, and buying Bachmann items from there when it was BT's. And yes, I do feel old. I mean, I remember Hatton's knocking out Bachmann Mark 1 coaches for £10 a pop in their sale. And some of the ones that they're popping out at £10 a pop then, I see them going second hand for 50, 60, 70 pounds now. It's just unreal. And yeah, Peter Jackson, Cheadle Heath, Hatton's of Smithdown Road. I remember the original shop, that tiny little darkened emporium, and Norman Hatton. I can remember going there as a kid. And it was like a little Aladdin's cave. Loved going there. And then they moved twice since then. They moved to a place further up Smithdown Road, a bigger, I think it was an ex-carpet showroom. And then they moved from there outright to the place in Widnes. But I actually drove past the old Smithdown Road Hatton's. It's not Hatton's anymore, no branding left whatsoever. But I was doing a film shoot for something called The Tower in Toxteth. Yeah, lock all your doors. For our overseas viewers, Toxteth is like, imagine the roughest place in America, and Toxteth eats that for breakfast. Peter Jackson Cheadle Heath says, grimy times in culture models in Warrington. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about them as well. 1980 Concord, 1985 from BT's, Lima 50 and 55 for $6.99. I never went to BT's when it was a family-owned business. Simon Train's Mother Row Showcase says, what was that shop on Bull Street in Birmingham? I remember it had a model layout on display. There used to be an Ian Allen place in Birmingham. Sad when that shut down, because that was always good to go to. Skipsy Train says, model shops no longer in Sheffield. Sheffield Transport Models, MG Shop. Oh, I do remember MG Shop. And Markway. The more original stops still open. BT's ×2, Model Zone to name but a few. Weren't MG Sharp and Markway in the same row of shops along with Olivia's Trains? I do seem to remember 3 model shops in a row, which was quite peculiar. And Wamgok says, my 2-year-old car is worth more now than I bought it for. We live in strange times. At the moment, things are being skewed by this issue getting processors, microprocessors. And it does mean that car manufacturers do use a lot. I mean, I dread to think how many of those microprocessors are actually in a modern car. We never used to have this. But I can sympathise that my 30-odd-year-old car is now worth more than I paid for it. But that's just a classic car thing. I bought it right when it was as worthless as it was ever going to get. I bought it for scrap value from my dad, and it's now worth substantially more because it's now considered a classic, but it wasn't when I bought it. Dongett's Model Railway, absolutely. Just remember, your money isn't worth what it was 2 years ago either. Yeah, Inoxian Models says, I have to go to Mount Tabor Models for all my Mechlin models. It is a shop in the loosest terms, kind of have to find the models in boxes amongst old lathe parts. So just looking back, Chief 89 says, off topic, but Sheffield seems to somehow remind me to watch that Full Monty movie again. Now, the Full Monty 2, I think they did it as a TV series. Can I just say I worked on that as one of the drivers. I didn't do anything really impressive in it, but many of the locations are actually in Manchester. Peter Jackson Cheadle Heath says Tower Models in Blackpool, mainly O-gauge though. Certainly Tower Models in Blackpool is a mecca of O-gauge. Skipsy Train says MG Sharp and Markway were on the same street. This branch of Markway is still open. The town centre branch is now a Warhammer. There was also a branch of Tags in Sheffield Centre too. Is that the one that was at Doncaster that has re-emerged after it was bought out by Model Zone and then Model Zone went bust, so it got bought back by the original owners, I believe. Southern Train Girl says, Reuben Gamley's was my go-to for trains. Mike Fringe says, the first coach I bought in 1959 cost 9 shillings. Of course, the shilling is the equivalent of 5 new pence. So 9, 5, 45, because that's 45 pence in modern terms. But what you've got to remember is that inflation means that 45 pence in 1959 bought substantially more than 45 pence does now. And that's the thing that people always don't quite cotton on to, is that inflation means that that money is worth more now. So, you know, if you say a pound in 1980 would buy the equivalent of what probably in the region of 15, 25 or even 30 pounds might buy now. So you've got to factor that in. And yes, the bottom line figures when we talk about the way that inflation has gone sound like, oh, that's incredible. I remember buying X, Y, and Z for pennies. But actually, those pennies were worth a lot more at the time. You know, I can remember. Oh God, we've wandered into memory lane and got mugged here, haven't we? But I can remember getting given 5 pence and going to the little news agents and getting 5 pence worth of pick and mix from the pick and mix selection at the news agents in Horwich, and it actually being quite a nice bagful. But of course I was small then, so what looked quite a nice bagful may not have been quite as big to an adult. I mean, I remember Monster Munch appearing to be huge. For those people overseas, Monster Munch, it's a kind of reconstituted maize snack, which we'd call crisps, you might call chips, I don't know. Locomotion Lotion says there's a website run by HMRC where you can work out what a given value for a specified year is actually worth today, adjusted for inflation. Ooh, there we go, ice cream Snickers. So, how are you feeling? Are you?
I am feeling like death.
Oh.
I am exhausted. Everything is making me angry.
Right, what?
And there's a horrible smell outside, like someone is burning plastic bins.
Oh. You checked in the back garden that it's not hard.
Don't set me off again, Jen.
Dion Wollaston says, sorry girls, was lovely to meet you at Rails, but I'm going to watch the football. That's alright, you can watch us on catch up with any of the stuff that you've missed. Not So Salty Sea Dog says, I remember getting a paper bag of 10p mix. Yeah. Raymond Legg says, Fox is owned by Disney and Full Monty is a Fox film. So I think you're probably overheating, so I'm going to just...
I'm not overheating, I am exhausted.
Does that help? Retro Ramble says Zoe wasn't very well last week too. Zoe, unfortunately,
I have a chronic autoimmune disorder,
Hmm.
and it's set off by heat and light, which of course means that at the moment the UK is pretty much killing me.
But the humidity is pretty grim as well. So, oops, excuse me. Where's my mouse gone? Oh, there we are. So, unfortunately, Britain is like Hong Kong at the moment, but without any of the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Andy T741 says, I got my first train set for Christmas from the Southern Train Girl, Hornby 37 and 4 wagons, track and control, way back in 1980. David is my model railways in Southend. We have lost all the model shops. Lake Wells in Hawkswell, the Hobby Store in Southend, Wings and Wheels in Hadley, and one in Victoria Arcade before it became a shopping centre. None left. And that's what we always say. Use it or lose it with your local model shop. Because when it's gone, it's not coming back.
Yeah. And that's true of everything. The high street will not come back. It's a one and done thing.
Unfortunately, the internet is more convenient for so much stuff. And the problem is, when people say, oh, Amazon is killing the high street. Well, actually...
Amazon changed the high street, and the high street didn't adapt. It's not Amazon's fault that people find the internet more convenient. It's the high street's fault for not being but able to provide something that the internet can't.
Yeah, it turns out, Amazon doesn't make you shop there. It just makes it a lot easier and more convenient for you to. And the truth of the matter is, probably a lot of the people going, "Oh, Amazon is killing the high street," are the same people who are then buying their stuff off Amazon and helping to kill the high street.
We saw as we were detoured by every single motorway on our route being shut yesterday during the 3 hours that we're sat in a hot box. That several towns were completely bustling. Towns and villages with little shops that the internet can't provide the stuff that they're doing were perfectly fine. They were doing well.
Yeah, we went through Shipley and Saltire, and they look really quite nice and bustling.
Yeah. It's not necessarily a thing where Amazon's going on. Yes, Amazon does undercut prices anywhere it can.
Yeah, right, hold on, before it goes on, so Russell Benson says, believe me, the UK is nothing like Hong Kong. At the old exiting airport, I remember hot air hitting me when they opened the aircraft doors. Yeah, but it's when you're not used to it, it does feel... It's the humidity rather than the heat. JD1533 Workshop says, greetings from Queens, New York City. Hello to you, great to see you, hope to find you well. Raymond Legg says, hobby store in Louisville, Kentucky, too far away, I think. There's like one close by, it's all US prototype there. And yeah, and then I suppose it's a bit like trying to model a US outline in the UK. There's only certain model shops that you can get that stuff from. Jerry BVR says Amazon is expensive for most train stuff. Unfortunately, yeah, it's the one area where Amazon doesn't do very well. They're just charging RRP.
And probably not getting a discount to be able to charge under it.
Yeah, and
they charge RRP for our books because I won't give them a discount.
Yeah. Because for a long time we did a lot of business with Waterstones.
Yeah.
And we did go. Well, we still do if they order any more.
If they order it, I'll send it.
Charlie Chimp says, I noticed in Chester last week that it was very, very busy, but a lot of shops had closed down, particularly in the Grosvenor shopping centre. Yeah,
we have a similar thing in Bolton. It looks bad at the moment, but the point is that Bolton is not renewing leases in its second shopping centre. The reason being that they're going to cut the middle out of it.
But on our drive, because the M62 was shut, and we were heading back from Durham. So we bobbed off, came down the M1, cut across onto the M621, and then headed back up, heading for Keighley. And what we noticed was that Shipley and Saltire, in particular, that we drove through the centre of, were very bustling. But it's interesting to actually, when you look at what those shops are, they're the kind of little places that you go and browse and you get stuff that you can't get on the internet. And we saw the same at I think it's
I've got to remove one thing. No.
What?
Not under any circumstances. No. We are not having that. Remove.
What?
We do not tolerate under any circumstances the idea of denying that COVID was a thing. My friends died from that. Do not come in here suggesting that it was a con.
Okay. Jerry BVR says Hattons were very clever to register for EU VAT, so there's no custom hassle for us non-Brits. Simon Train to Model Railway Showcase says the Guildhall in Stafford. I saw a video this morning. I couldn't believe how empty it was. A jewellery shop, the entertainer, and that was it. Remember, it used to be a lively place. A lot of town centres do seem to have been in terminal decline. But then I keep coming back to Ramsbottom, Shipley, Saltire.
Little boutique places.
Yeah. Shops where they're not part of a chain seem to be thriving, where they can offer something different to what online. When I say online, like basically things you can't get on Amazon.
Amazon or any other big store, which I can't think of any other place that there would be. And that's the other thing. What is there on the internet? We go to Amazon. Where else do you go for your big stuff? I used to go to HMV, but their website hasn't updated a huge amount. I go to CEX.
Yeah.
But only because I know that they've got certain things that I
But
want.
CEX sells stuff that Amazon doesn't really touch.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're surviving against this giant behemoth that apparently is killing everyone that's competing against
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
And
there
yet
are
are places that are doing this.
there are places that are bucking the trend. And actually, Halifax, when we went to Halifax, that was another place that seemed to be bucking the trend. Skipton was the same. And actually, if you're in Skipton, Clark Railworks and Ellis Clark Trains are based there as well. Well worth a visit, actually. Skipton is quite a small place, but a lot going on.
Their second-hand bookshop. Remember when we went
Yeah.
in there and
Yeah.
I found that Transformers book and was making out like it was the greatest piece of literature and ended up with everyone in the store staring at me like they didn't know whether I was serious or not.
Yeah. Jennifer Horton says they've just arrived. Gandalf, come with you.
Gandalf?
A Monday clubber is never late, Toto wagons, nor are they early. They arrive precisely when they mean to.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Gandalf. Hanning's Rest Model Railway says a lot of the high street problems are because of the high rent and rates charged. And yes, I think there are a lot of towns and cities where the council hasn't really got a grip on the fact that you can't just screw money out of the high street indefinitely, because
Yeah,
you end up looking like Bolton, basically,
Yeah.
if you do. And, you know, we've seen so many of these big names like Debenhams, BHS, Beals.
Yeah, but let's think of...
Just lost Wilco and Clinton Cards.
Didn't Debenhams go down, or is that another one? It was Debenhams, wasn't it? Because the guy was misusing the company. Or was that the other one?
I think both of them, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, there's also been a lot of greed, which hasn't helped.
Yeah.
Jerry BBR says, I got a great bargain from Clark's today. Thanks to your channel for the heads up. You're absolutely
You're
welcome.
absolutely
And
welcome.
certainly, yeah. You'll there's a link on our main videos. They don't sponsor the Monday Club, so there's no link from here. But if you look at our main videos, there's a link to Ellis Clark Train Stroke Clark Railworks.
Yeah.
And the second-hand stuff there. Some really
Some
great
absolute
bargains.
Absolutely.
Can I have the fan back now?
You
please?
can. I feel like death still, but I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah. Sorry, I need.
So, sorry to everyone. That was a bit snappy earlier. I don't like to snap at people, but certain things
You
set me
caught
right
Zoe
off.
on a bad day.
Yeah, I do apologize. Because I don't like to be angry. I don't like to be that kind of angry gamer type of stereotype that
Yeah.
so many have.
The Rick Morley points out Woolworths is still in Australia. I think it's still in America
It
as
is,
well.
but it's not the same company anymore.
I think they were kind of like franchises, as it were. A bit like Walmart branched out into the UK,
Yeah,
bought Asda, but
they
it's,
bought Asda and then sold it again.
yeah,
Because it doesn't work here.
so they went, oh, what do you mean predation's not allowed?
You
here?"
can't do predation in the UK. We go, no.
But yeah, Wamgok, absolutely right. Things change, and you know, if
Yeah,
you
they
look
do.
at you look at old pictures of the high street in decades gone by, it can be very different. You know, you go back to like the 1890s, and what you're actually looking at is lots and lots of little shops to do with food, things like butchers, greengrocers, bakers.
And then the department store came along.
Yeah, department stores were the first big hit to the high street, and we saw a lot of the local butchers, greengrocers, that kind of shop really struggled. And I'm guessing at the time people said, oh, department stores are killing our high street.
And they were.
Yeah, and there used to be lots of little shops for various different items of clothing. I mean, corsetiers, you don't see them anymore. Well, apart from in Brighton.
The
But
what?
corsetiers. Corset makers.
Oh,
You know,
I thought it was a disease.
no, CNA
Like
is still in
Legionnaires.
Europe, I think, says Russell Bennett. Yeah, CNA is actually, they pulled out of the UK, but I think they're a Dutch company. John W says, talking of old model shops, who remembers Eames as EAMS and King's Cross Model Shop? I've heard of people talk about King's Cross Model Shop. I'm not familiar with Eames or EAMS. Jamie Smith says, I say bring back motor cars into the high street instead of pedestrian zones everywhere. I'm not sure. See, I remember when the thing for pedestrianising came in and sort of, it was like late 80s. mid to late 80s.
The thing about it is, it's got to be done right. A lot of pedestrianised areas was about trying to control what the high street looked like, not about providing any good access.
Well, it was billed at the time as actually being more about making it a much safer location to walk around. Because the problem was that, I guess the idea was that there were so many people there that they were all squashed together on the pavements. It wasn't great. And getting access across the street, if there was a lot of traffic, was a thing. So pedestrianised areas, I do see the logic for them. But then the high street has now changed, and we probably had 20 to 25 years where it worked with pedestrianised areas. I mean, if the Growler Blackwood Engage layout says, my corsets don't fit me anymore.
I know that feeling.
I've got the same thing.
My car doesn't fit me anymore.
Yeah, those who know me well know that one of my other things is collecting corsets. And not a single one fit me anymore. And I've got, like we're talking like Elizabethan style and Jacobean, that kind of thing. Ham Shackleton says, pedestrian areas, they never thought that shops needed to have access for deliveries. And that can be an issue. Partick Hill Station
That's been an issue since ancient Rome. There's this brilliant complaint that still exists. Caesar has stopped all traffic through Rome during the day. Now, I have to try and make my deliveries in the dark.
Partick Hill Station says, I was surprised to find the C&A in Istanbul. Yeah, I think it's just the UK that they left, but they were quite an early lever from the high street. In Oxyon Models, says cars have no place in a city or town centre. And yeah, I would say that actually, I mean, can you imagine Victoria Square in Bolton with cars driving across there?
Yes, because I saw one the other day when someone got lost.
No, but it used to be a main road across there.
Yes, there used to be a bus stop right outside the town hall.
But actually, I think it's still better for not having that.
I don't know.
Wamgok says, okay guys, I'm off to phone me mum now. Stay safe. Bye.
Take care.
Say hello to your mum for us. And you take care. Hope everything's well. And catch you later. Rick Morley says, bye Wamgok. Southern Train Girl says, had a Wimpy near me for years. They're not the same as when I was a kid. Yeah, do you remember Wimpy?
No.
We've gone into memory lane.
I don't
and
remember
got
Wimpy
mugged.
for one very specific reason. There wasn't one near me.
Well, I remember
You've got to remember, I grew up in a place where the Industrial Revolution passed me by. The entire town just didn't bother. So, Durham has a medieval city centre, no industrialisation around the area, and consequently no extras like fast food until I was a student and McDonald's arrived.
Ham Shackleton says Wimpy were builders. Yeah, but I remember one of the very last ones, like Last Man Standing for a very long time, was actually at Sandbach Services before it got turned into, I think it's now a McDonald's. Yeah, James Pett says, I remember having children's parties at Wimpy.
Wow.
Sarah Davies says there were 2 Wimpys in Sunderland. So you weren't in this sort of...
I didn't go to Sunderland, I was in Durham.
Yeah.
Do you know how far Sunderland is for a kid?
I tell you, what, a bus ride?
I wasn't taking my bike, let's put it that way.
Right, let's have a look what you got going on here. I'm going to have one of these.
Wimpy was in Popeye, yeah.
David, it's my mother always says, as a teenager, I worked in a Wimpy on Southend Seafront.
Aaron Phil says, I would love to see you build it from the start, a new 00 or 009 DCC layout from the basics to start now as a group of playlists. It's a possibility, but we don't know. The problem with that sort of thing is we've got to be able to just... Whoa, something was hanging off that, Jen.
Yeah, I know it is.
I think it's lost its belt or something.
Yeah,
so the problem with doing a new layout is not just building it, but we've got to plan for it, we've got to put everything together, and then set out the time. We have to parcel out the time. So there is a plan for an N-Gage layout, there's a plan for a 009 layout, but when they'll actually happen is another matter, because we have to try and fit it in around all of our other work, which unfortunately is not always as soon as possible. We were talking about that Garden Railway for years before Jen started it, for example.
Yeah, traction tyres. That's one of the bad things that can happen. So had a traction tyre get snagged on something and come apart. So that's what's afflicted that locomotive. So let's see what we've got to replace it. I'm not a fan of traction tyres. I don't think many people are. But what shall I put on to replace it? I'm looking over the turntable area. It's got to be oh, sorry, Harry said it's a whining motor. That'll be the... Unfortunately, we've got a lot of fans going on up here. It's the only way that we can stay vaguely cool.
Yeah. I've got as much of audio as working video stuff. Yeah, that's because we had to open this up to try and do this gently, but I had to open up Chrome to get the links for the videos, and I have a feeling that we can't do them just because it's stuttering so bad the moment I even looked at it.
Unfortunately,
Windows has screwed us tonight.
has messed us around.
So we won't be doing the videos tonight, I'm sorry.
I bet you it's holding the update in memory, and it's basically
Of course it is.
hogging loads of the memory. So I've stood up now, I'm just having a look around. It is quite a long train, so certainly most locomotives are not going to pull that train. But I am going to... Let's see, what have I not run for a very long time?
All of your gronks in a row.
No. So I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to... We haven't had a Metropolitan Vickers Class 28 for ages. So...
Hello, Vicar.
More tea, Vicar! So I'm just going to place this on the track, I think, as a temporary stopgap.
Fair enough. So yeah,
701.
there will be a 009 layer. It is on our list of projects, but unfortunately, we don't know when it will happen. And that's the nature of the beast at the moment.
Yeah, beastie.
I'm just going to bring up the front.
Oh, it would help if I
Here
put
we
it on
go.
the track the correct way round.
What? Putting things on the right way round?
Yeah.
That's unusual for you, Mrs. I'm going to run this locomotive backwards.
Well, no, it's only got a coupling at one end. Oh, look at that. It's like, oh, I see you're busy. Let me run this train past you. But I can't see very well. I'm getting old. My eyesight's not what it used to be. Talk to the nice people. Read the
Retro
comments.
Ramble says, the Big Breakfast had a game called Multi-Ticker. I remember the Big Breakfast. I remember when it was
I remember when it was good.
I remember when it first started and we were all watching it like, what on earth is this? And then that was, after a while we got used to it and realised what was going on. What is this? It's a different thing to wake you up properly and have a bit of fun.
Oh, wakey.
And as a result, we all just watched it. That's how I got into Digitizer. Because
What, was he on Big Breakfast?
No, but when the Big Breakfast was on, we just got our TV with teletext.
Peachy TT120 says, popped in quickly to say hello and wish all well. Hello to you.
Hello there.
It's great to see you. Hope you're well. Tim Krinsky says, I went from N to 00 because of eyesight. I know that feeling. People sometimes say, like, oh, why wouldn't you build something in N gauge? And the problem I've got is my eyesight. And it's one of the reasons that I quite like the O gauge, is because I can see it better. Retro Ramble says, don't phone in, it's just for fun. Valley's 56XX says, I hate railing 1 co-1 locos. Yeah, classes 40, 44, 45, and 46 are a nuisance in 00 because of that very front pony truck that swings wildly and you can't quite see. But yeah, James Pett says teletext, the internet from the days before the internet.
Yeah.
Warbler Productions says there's a TARDIS lying down in one of the wagons by the retaining wall. Yeah, you're the first to notice it.
My goodness.
Aaronville asks, is there a Model U scan of Zoe? No, unfortunately, there's just myself. But
I refuse to be scanned until I've lost the last of the weight.
Well, I got scanned, and when you see me without any paint on the figure, it's very obvious I'm overweight. But I don't know if there gets. You may get dragged into the scanning booth. It's like, here you are, stand there, don't move. Huh? What's going on?
They can try, but I am really uncomfortable with how I look at the moment. I put a huge amount of weight on during lockdown, and consequently I got ill because of it. And
Right.
I don't like it.
Right on Track says, has anyone gone for a Kerno rail motor? Are they out yet? I don't remember seeing any. Leslie Gilpin Railway says, hi, Valleys, try re-railing a 4444 with a 12-wheel bogie tender. I've actually got a 484 Niagara, and that can be a bit of an art form. Ruben Ashwell says, I've not noticed the TARDIS all this evening.
They are there.
In fact, both of them are on that screen. I'll give you a clue. Ben Tullett says, I haven't disappeared, been discussing buying my first home with parents. Lots to think about and discuss. Your first house is great fun, to be honest with you.
Just don't do what we did and suddenly realise that no one can stop us doing silly things.
It's like, hey, look, I can just drill holes in this wall. Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, no, the wall's collapsed.
Yeah, and you've got no one to blame but yourself. That's the problem. Okay, these look amazing.
What are you looking at?
The Kerno rail motor.
Are they actually out yet? So they've shared, these look like livery samples. That was in November 2022. Yeah, they're all showing us for pre-order, but they look fantastic.
Oh yes, they look amazing.
So I'm looking, and I don't know when the delivery date is. Sometimes
I'll keep looking.
Sometimes we get somebody who works at Kerno Model Centre who's in the chat, might be able to fill us in. Flying Chairman says, so the class 40s to 46 is there. Well, no, because classes 41, 42 and 43, well, class 41, the original one, I don't class these HSTs as those, but they were all the warships, and the class 41 warships were a Coco, and the classes 42 and 43 were both Bobos. So they're kind of the outliers.
Is it just me, or does anyone else have the Airwolf theme stuck in their head?
I didn't until you mentioned it. Now I do. Yeah, Sarah Davies says, oh, my laptop is saying updates are ready for Windows. Yes, and it's messing us about as well. So if you're wondering why things are going a bit jiggly-liggly, then that is exactly why.
Expected third quarter 2023.
Oh, okay.
So they're not long off.
Not long. Simon Train's Model Rower Showcase says, I saw the model scans of Ken Patterson on What's Neat this week. Also did Mike Buddy, James Regier and Joshua Barton. They do look good. Absolutely.
To those of you who are complaining that you've now got the Airwolf theme stuck in your head, I'd just like to say one thing. Ha 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 ha.
But actually, maybe that's... I know that Model U are sending over a load of figures for us to do a painting session on, including New Junction. Yeah, you can't escape Weir Yard. You might keep turning down interviews, but you're going to be sat here somewhere because we've got you coming 3D printed, and you're going to stand next. You're going to stand next to me somewhere.
Oh, that would be so funny if you just do a little joke short. Hi, I'm Jenny Kirk, and I'm here with New Junction, and it's just the two of you as models.
Yeah. But maybe that'd be something for Model U. Send Ken Patterson at What's Neat this week a 3D printed me, and see if he can work out who it is. Who's this overweight heifer?
Yeah, that shot would be funny. Yes, exactly. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Interview the small New Junction, says Iron Horse Railways.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Growler Blackwood Engage Layout says St Andrew's Model Rail Exhibition, great trip up to Fife at the weekend. David Shaw says there is a lot of COVID going round, and that's how it started with me. Exhausted last week, still positive, not nice. Unfortunately, yeah, it keeps coming back. It's luckily it's not as bad as it was at the start. People have got some degree of immunity,
Yeah.
which effectively means you get a milder dose, but it's not pleasant.
No, it's not. With us, though, it's just overwork and the heat.
But we had COVID very early on, and we suffered with long COVID
I
for a
still
couple of years.
submit that I got COVID from that BBC event that I shouldn't have gone to. 400 people in one room. My goodness.
Yeah, anyway, moving on. Dave Holloway says, could be worse, could have the Fraggle Rock theme. No! 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 No, guess what?
Down on we yacht. Down on we yacht.
Stop it! But, and see if Gandalf wants a chocolate.
No thanks, I'm eating all of your biscuits. Nom, 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 nom.
I don't know what you're eating, Gandalf. We didn't have any biscuits.
I got some biscuits while we're out.
Did you? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that keep him busy.
Nom, 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 nom.
Yeah, Joe Smith says Fraggle Rock rocks. Yeah, Fraggle Rock represent. So, what time are we on now?
20 to 9.
Wow, this has gone quick. Oh, it seems like 5 minutes ago we started.
Dance your cares away. Loco's coming out to play.
Charlie Chimp says, no, call me Snake this week. I think it works. I'm sure he turned up one time when we ran a bit late at the end, saying he just got back from work. Yeah, no, we were talking about model shops. You've got to use your local model shop,
Yes.
or lose it. And I know from talking to Sir Kenneth Patterson, represent everybody, What's Nick This Week, Posse. Great to always see those shows. I do share them on the Monday Club Facebook group. But I know he said that it's like a desert in a lot of places in the US, and you'd think that the US would do comparatively better, and certainly in terms of the hobby, model railroaders, there's a lot of them in the US, so it is quite a big market, but that doesn't seem to translate into huge numbers of model shops. And I can only guess that a lot of people are just buying mail order, and there may be that there's one or two model shops which do incredibly well out of mail order. And you could argue that here in the UK we get much the same. You know, you've got your kind of tier one of mail order powerhouses, people like Rails, Happens, Kerno Model Centre.
Kerno Model Centre.
Well, Ellis Clark, I wouldn't say is the powerhouse. They do a lot in second hand, but
right. You're only gone by the big box shifters.
The Model Centre as well, is probably up there. But you know, we do have a lot of small ones, and there's ones which don't even have an internet presence, like 53A models in Hull. And if you do go in there and say, "Oh hi, Jenny sent me," they would go, "Who?" Because they don't do the internet. They're probably about the same age as my grandparents. And they've been running that shop since at least the 80s, if not before. I think it's John and his wife. I can't remember what his wife's called. But I've been going in there since the 1980s when my grandmother lived over in Cottingham.
Come on, join me with the song.
Oh, what?
Shunt your cares away.
Grog where locos come to play. Shunt your cares away. Bum bum. Down at Weir Yard. I think it's frightening that we both know the tune.
Of course it's not frightening. We grew up on this stuff. Fraggle Rock, Nightmare. I loved Nightmare.
Right, okay, well, keep it to yourself. James Pett says, remember the US has a lower population density, so physical shops for niche hobbies are likely to be harder to make work. Although, I mean,
Very true.
Yeah, so I suppose that, you know, if you went to somewhere like Chicago or St. Louis
you need a
or
city.
Los Angeles, then that's where they'll be. You won't get them out in the wilds. But yeah, I mean, the UK does have a very high population density. I think we're second only to Japan in that respect.
It wouldn't surprise me that there's about 70 million people on this island, and if they get any more, it's going to tip over.
Yeah, because they all keep
Because
trying to
they all
go
live
to
in
London. Yeah.
The only reason we've got the Highlands of Scotland is to weight it down on the other side.
Yeah.
We had to stick some mountains there at the furthest we could get.
Yeah, right. Anyway, talk to the nice people. I'm going to have a dinky decker. Ah, Dominic Zed, our Kickline correspondent. Big
Hello.
hello to you. Great to see you. I hope I find you well.
My local model shop in Stockport recently retired. Don't know any others in Stockport. Yeah, that is the other thing. That no one's coming into the scene at the other end these days. Well, I was very surprised when Nuffy's models took over from Bolton Model Mart. I thought it was just going to close.
John Walters says, hello from Hallithwood. Aha, local
Hello.
boy. Great to see you. We used to live in Hallithwood. We used to live on the Close, which is as close as you can get to the station.
Don't tell people where we used to live.
Why?
Because you can find us.
What? Where we used to live? Yeah, but we don't live there anymore.
You still find information out. Don't
Yeah,
give personal details out on the internet.
Why don't you shut up and stop giving people ideas? Rich says hobby shops have become very rare, at least in California. I saw somebody say, there we are, Worthington Model Railway says, no, it's the complete opposite, Jenny. No shops in major cities. They tend to be in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
I wonder if that means that people have worked out that if people are going to buy stuff mail order anyway,
Doesn't matter where
you
you
might
are.
as well set up somewhere out of town where space is a lot cheaper, and you can handle all the mail order and live in somewhere you want to live in. Partick Hill Station says visited a train shop in LA, 2 in Tampa, and a few museums in each. Yeah, the San Diego Model Railroad Museum is amazing. My father went there, and it's very reminiscent of a kind of miniature Wunderland, but without the kind of funny little cameos. Miniature Wunderland has a lot of these little funny cameos and flashy lights, planes taking off. A lot of, I don't want to call it gimmicky, I think that's an unfair word to use, but the San Diego Model Railroad Museum, it's like a making tracks type model, but on a grand scale. So it's much more prototypically accurate. The Tryheart says, hi Jenny and Zoe, just asking this now as I'm night Sunday and will be watching this back during my shift. But can I ask what size heat shrink you use when you're soldering your DCC decoders wires? Well, let me try and find it. I've got it here somewhere. I get it from DCC Concepts, purely for convenience. But if, I'm just seeing if it says 1mm heat shrink. So that's the stuff I use. Just holding it up so that people can see. And it's 1mm heat shrink. And I just, apparently.
Give me a second to try.
Didn't you already create a scene that did this?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that on Rostrum
go.
Cam?
Yeah.
So that's what I use, a 1mm shrink wrap, and yeah, DCC Concepts sell it like that. But if you want to just buy a whole bunch of this, you can probably buy it online. But if you want to support your local model shop, there's a lot of places, even in the US, that stock DCC Concepts. So I use the HS set, which is 36 pieces of assorted colours. But they also do, you can buy all the same colour if you want. And one pack of this, I find when you're doing locomotive DCC fitting, one pack does go a very long way. And yeah, Ham Shackleton says, yeah, heat shrink, find the size that fits over your wires. But that's 1mm. With the really fine wires, that feels a little bit on the big side. You've got to be quite careful. So you could argue that if you can get smaller than 1mm, you might find that a little bit easier to use, but don't go so small that it's a struggle to get it over the wires. Inoxian Models says, Germany was amazing for model shops. When I was living in Dusseldorf, there were 5 active model shops within the city. That was pretty good, actually. That's like Bolton in the good old days.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we always have this discussion when we go to model shows where people are talking about prices and how, because it's a relatively small market, the prices have to be higher because they're not making huge runs of everything to get the costs down. And yet, there was a time when 5 model shops could be in one city. There must have been a much bigger market. What happened?
Computer games, computer console games is what happened.
suppose so. Makes me wonder how much of a user base stuff like trains and train sim have got. Because surely the interest in trains is still there, just the mode of outlet for that interest has changed.
Well, what you've got to remember is that, see, when I was very young, I can remember all the boys at school had train sets, almost all. I would say 75 to 80% of all the boys at school had a train set of some kind.
Wow.
And that would have been the very early 1980s. So computers sort of existed. You know, you could have your Spectrum or whatever, but they were very unusual. And even in the days of the Acorn Archimedes and the Commodore. Oh, sorry, you want to top up? There we go. I don't remember many people having them, and they were still, even you think about things like the Commodore as being like this big paradigm shift.
Well, it was. It sold 8 million computers.
Yeah, but I would say that in a classroom of 30 kids, probably only 4 or 5 of them had one at home.
That amazes me because every kid I knew had a computer. Mostly a ZX Spectrum.
You got to remember, I'm what am I, 3 school years above you?
Yeah.
So we're at the crossover, and I can remember growing up. The probably 75% to 80% of all the boys at school had a model railway of some description, and it may not have been an actual. In fact, almost never was it anything like what you see up here. It was a toy railway. It would have been an oval of track with trains racing round, and scenery was like plonked on buildings, and maybe a bag of coloured lichen just spread around like it was confetti. And what actually changed was the rise of home computing and home consoles. Because I can remember some kids having access to home computers, but not many. James Pett says, this is interesting. I'm the same age as Zoe. Joe Smith says, wow, that surprised me. I was the only one who had a train set in my class, early 1980s. Strange.
The only train set I saw was my granddad's, and when he died and my dad had it, he tried to get me interested, but I wasn't interested.
Worthington Model Railway says Amstrad was the game changer in the 80s.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They changed so much. The hi-fi set, the computer set, the fact that they bought out Spectrum and then made that enhanced and all that. They were a big changer.
James Spink says, I agree with what Jenny said. There's a lot more game shops and barbers in the high street. What's wrong with having care about your mum out and there's no more model shops? What's wrong with having care about your mum and there's no more model shops?
I'm not sure what that means. So...
I think Spellcheck may have intervened in that.
Yeah.
Raymond Legg says, I see more girls pictured in old German model train adverts than in the US. Lionel learned the hard way that girls don't want pink train sets, they want normal train sets.
Like everyone else, they want what they see in real life.
Yeah.
They don't want something that panders.
And what you've got to remember is that gendered toys are something of a construct. If you give a small boy a doll, he'll play with it.
Yeah, they did. It was called Action Man.
Yeah, and like Action Man was it was a doll branded to slip it past the parents.
Yeah.
And if you give a girl a toy car, she'll play with it. It's called Barbie's Volkswagen Cabriolet.
Yeah.
So toys are only gendered, I guess, more as a construct to please the parents, and because
so that they have an idea of what to buy the kid.
Yeah, it's like society has deemed that certain things should be for girls, certain things should be for boys.
Oh, and we're still reeling from the side effects of one of them. What? Commodore decided that they weren't selling enough computers because programming was a woman's job. So they put boys in their adverts, and all of a sudden, kids wanted these Commodores, but only boys.
Huh.
And now we have the problem that gaming and programming is male-dominated.
Dominic Z, our Kickline correspondent, says, Jenny, do you know that Kickline was supposed to be sold to Mattel? I did, actually. I did. But thank you for letting us know. Gaza S2 says, well, I grew up in the early 80s. Not that many people had train sets because no one had the money.
Yeah.
I think, actually, you'll find that the early 80s, we were living with the legacy of the winter of discontent and huge amounts of industrial action in the 70s.
Also, the late 70s oil crisis, which meant that plastics were more expensive.
Yeah, that was about 1974, 75, because that's actually referenced in James Bond, The Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah, it's the reason why Star Wars' toy line is 3.5 inches instead of the much bigger ones.
Right on Track says, have you been watching the Barbie movie, Jenny? I have not seen it, I have to say.
We haven't been seeing them for ages.
Charlie Chimp says, I always wanted a doll's house. It was my favourite at kindergarten. My father was displeased. Well, I remember my sisters had it was called a Caroline home, and it was like a doll's house. I don't remember there being dolls with it, but there was all like the miniature furniture and stuff. And in all honesty, it was the sort of thing that Monica Geller would have gone for. Yeah, with the crockery hutch.
Boys did have dolls' houses in the 80s. They were called Castle Grayskull Action Set, Snake Mountain, Boulder Hill from Mask, and things like that. Again, the toy companies knew how to get a doll's house past the parents.
Yeah.
They stuck guns on it.
That's right. Oh, yes. G.I. Joe, protecting American oil interests overseas. Go G.I. Joe! Oh dear. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you give most children toys, they will play with them.
Yeah.
Whether they then come to view them as gendered is purely a social construct. Anyway.
David Shaw really, really wants to see a Deltic.
Adele, you want to see a Deltic? Okay. I can't get it running, but...
I was playing with my first 00 train set before I got it for Christmas the following year.
There we go, there's a Deltic.
Deltic.
There we go. Woohoo! Oh, yes.
We had forts in the 60s. Airfix had a range of castles and forts. Oh, I'd have loved that. I loved castles and stuff as a kid.
Right, let me just put that there. Oh, nice.
Welcome, Alex Dent. He's just arrived from the Model Railway Club.
Oh,
Gandalf?
I think somebody has something to say about that.
Monday Clubber is never late to the wagons, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
Thanks, Gandalf.
Cheers, Gandalf.
You're welcome.
Dominic Zed, our Kickline correspondent, says, Jenny, the Mattel Disney Cars range also suffered the same thing with the gender. For example, characters like Sally, Flo, Lizzie, etc., Mattel wanted to sell them to the girl audience.
Yeah. It's so annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's racing cars, come on.
Yeah. James Pett says, I remember having a Lima Deltic. Flymer Chairman 1 says, Napier goodness. Yes. Yes, Deltic exhaust smoke. Don't smell this. Yes. James Pett says, and my father actually worked on building the prototype Deltic when he was an apprentice.
Nice.
Pete Jackson Cheadle Heath says, yep, that sounds about right. I remember those days. So just having a look. Simon Train's Mother Rower Showcase says the Deltic, God tier locos. Andy T741 says the teachers used to take it in turns, taking it home every day after school on the weekend. We had one VCR that was pushed between class with the TV. I remember when
you knew it was a good day when the TV got rolled in.
Oh yeah. That was the lesson to be in. The TV on a stand with the VCR in the bulletproof case to stop people from nicking it.
Yeah.
That they used to have to unlock the VCR. Oh, yes. Oh, that was a lesson where you were there. It's like, right, we're going to kick back for half an hour now. Yeah, Valley's 56XX, this is about the Deltic, says, 2 motor torpedo boat engines in a biscuit tin.
Sounds like a recipe for success.
Alex Dent says, oh no, I'm not a Monday clubber who's late. No, you've arrived precisely when you meant to. Dominic Z, our Kickline correspondent, says, Jenny, I own a Sally diecast and I'm a boy. Well, I own a train set and I'm a girl. So here we are. We're dragging gender stereotypes kicking and screaming under the wheels of our huge, great, big monster truck.
People should never be ashamed to like what they like.
Yeah.
That's what I think we should all take away from everything. If you like something, that's fine. You're allowed to like it.
Yeah. I've got one of the largest collections of lingerie downstairs. Doesn't mean you're going to see me wear it.
Yeah, she just likes to have it.
Yeah, Walter Sparbier says, I have to go to my local model train shop tomorrow and buy a loco.
You don't have to.
Tell them that we sent you.
Can I just point out one thing? You don't have to. You're going to, but you don't have to.
Yeah, and you may not buy just one. But yeah, it's a great hobby. It's like what Ken Patterson, Sir Ken of Patterson says, it's the best hobby in the world. Absolutely. Walter Spavier says, I will. Excellent. And they go, who? Right. Oh, that's pretty good. Sarah Davis says, I do have Barbie's Pink Beetle. Saw it in a charity shop window for £4 and had a regular sized new silver beetle at the time. Brilliant. So we're coming close towards the end.
I am feeling lightheaded again, but I've got it set up for my show, Game Hammer Classic Gaming.
Okay, well,
where we game classics with a hammer.
Yeah,
all of that. We do not use a hammer.
Before you go, just read out some comments whilst I stuff my face, Gandalf style.
Okay.
Oh, Pam, Gandalf style.
Gandalf style. Hey. I still have the first Hornby model loco in its wagons I had, says Ben Tullett. Decided to buy the 040 Queen Mary, the partner loco, King George V this year. Nice. What games have I got tonight, says Right on Track? I don't know yet. It's the Anything Goes, retro gaming show where you pick the games and we'll play them on real hardware.
Hello Kitty Roller Rescue. Chobberton Junction says, turns out I live just a few miles from Gauge Master. Never knew that until this week. And Gauge Master do offer, I think it's free postage over £25. It's the lowest free postage that I've seen offered on a routine basis, mail order. And it's so if you are wanting a particular item, it really does bring it into the fold as being a viable place to mail order from. And again, as always, if you go shopping at Gauge Master, do tell them I sent you, because they might actually know who the heck you're talking about.
Simon Train says, it's my birthday tomorrow, please don't put the bread and butter in the gutter. That's fine.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. You live in the zoo. You smell like a monkey. And you act like one too. That's what you get when you don't ask for bread and butter in the gutter.
So, Cupboard Monkey, you know all about acting like a monkey, don't you, Cupboard Monkey? And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, do please tickle that like button and share the stream on social media. It's a great way of letting others know about the Monday Club goodness. It is the online model railway club where you can hang out and talk all things trains and
also end up running off with nostalgia. Did we even talk about the topic tonight?
What topic did you pick?
What next for model railways, since the prices are going sky high, but we've got all these bells and whistles?
Well, you didn't tell me that's what the topic was. So
I sent a thing, and you studiously read out before and after in the comments section.
Did I?
Yeah, you ignored what I wrote, because you're a git.
Oh, well, you didn't mention... Oh, so here we are, 2 hours later, and you now tell me...
So what is next for model railways, Jen? Because I had a very interesting point to raise when Iron Horse said, working shock absorbers.
Working shock absorbers?
Or at least, working suspensions.
Working tilting mechanism?
Yeah.
But hasn't Rapido already done that with their APT? And I think the Hornby one leans on the corners as well. But I think what's more likely is we'll see greater use of some of the things that DCC was always designed to do. Now, if you look at the specification for particularly a 21-pin DCC interface, you might be wondering what some of the things to do with hall sensors are all about. And actually, these are in the specification for DCC to allow things like chuff rate to be matched up. You have a magnet on the back, a tiny neodymium magnet on the back of one of the wheels going round, and you have a sensor. It's called a Hall sensor, and it picks up on what they call the Hall effect, which is changes in magnetic field. And that can be used to set the chuff rate. It's how expensive decoders and expensive models can perfectly match the chuff rate with the locomotive, because effectively it knows when a single revolution of the wheel has taken place.
Right.
But it also means that you can open up the door. We've seen with things like opening and closing doors on units and on Continental models. I think it's only a matter of time before that turns up in the UK. And you could imagine a DMU or an EMU pulling into a station, and a sensor which is set low down would detect that it's against a platform and only open that side's doors. And things like that. I think as well that there's great possibility for using DCC control to operate things like breakdown cranes. And I'm actually, I don't know for certain, but I'm absolutely convinced that Bachmann's original plan was to make the Ransoms and Rapier breakdown cranes able to be operated electrically. And I think that just at the time, the price of that made it prohibitive, given that they were, I think the original RRP was nearly £250. I think that they thought, you know, you'd be looking at closer to £500 and it wasn't viable. But as time moves on, I think that we're going to see DCC control of things like, for example, crane tanks, the J92 or the I think it's the J78, becoming viable to be controlled via DCC. And I think that that is the route that we may be going along for.
Auto uncoupling as well, so for at least 56
yes.
decks.
Auto uncoupling, I think, is something which would be a great boon. Now, it has to be said, some of the US outline models I've already got. I think it's an MTH, a Mike's Train House Alco PA, that does feature automatic uncoupling through DCC. So it is already out there, it is already possible, and I think that where we will see this in time. And yeah, Raymond Legg says there is a Roco breakdown crane that operates. I've seen an O-gauge one actually at an exhibition. Somebody was demonstrating a German crane that was able to be operated via DCC. Stevie Film suggests that DCC will be replaced by a wireless system, and I don't mean like Hornby's. There have been attempts over the years, but once the standard is agreed, we will see it avoid sending data through rail. So we're going to be running down to a close. I just would like to say that I do agree with you. I think at the moment, Bluetooth is interesting, but it does feel a little bit of a Wild West with no common standard. And DCC itself would not have taken off if there hadn't been a common standard adopted, whereby different manufacturers' equipment would interact with each other. And that's what we need. The moment we get a common standard, I think we're going to see an explosion in a new generation of layout control. But unfortunately, we're coming to an end for tonight, so it's just got time for me to say thank you all so much for coming, and thank you to the generosity of those of you who have donated through the Super Chat, and also Tim Krinsky, who very generously donated 50 Monday Club, 50 channel memberships to various people. So if you've got yourself a channel membership today, then do make the most of those features. And at the end of the month, you may wish to continue with that. It's another great way of supporting the channel. But thank you so much, everybody who's joined us. And I know we went off track. We took a little right turn into memory lane and got mugged a little bit. The problem is you can't see much because those rose-tinted glasses to kind of take away your peripheral vision. But there we go. Been great having your company. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next week, you take great care of yourself. Thank you and goodbye.
The train now departing is the 2106 service to Memory Lane, stopping at Grove Street Yard, Bolton Trinity Road, Minith Tatis, Tatis Newark, Eindhoven, Pittsburgh, somehow,
How?
and then on to Memory Lane. That's a 2106 service to Memory Lane. If you go up to the loft today, you're sure of a big surprise. If you go up to the loft today, you'll never believe your eyes. For every train there ever was has gathered there together, because today's the day that Jenny does the Monday Club. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Do you mind if I take this hokey cokey with me?
You take. Oh, hokey cokey. You take that with you.
Hokey cokey. Bye bye. Oh. Would it be really annoying if I took the mouse with me?
Yes, it would. Now, stop messing about. Take your. Oh, I was going to say take your sweeties, but you've gone and Gandalf them down here.
I'm taking them with me in spirit and in stomach.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Right. Good night, everybody. Sorry we couldn't run any of the videos tonight, just simply that Windows was messing us about and it would have just been so jerky as to be unwatchable. But hopefully next week we'll do a bumper session. Funnily enough, the Cupboard Monkey thought it was Gene Hunt, but it's not. It's a Ford Consul. Now, I do have Gene Hunt's Cortina, but that's not it, even though it is the same colour, which, I can't remember, was it Harvest Gold or something that British Leyland euphemistically called it, but everybody else called it Baby Poo. Baby Poo Brown. And incidentally, I don't think anybody found the other TARDIS. So, I'm now going to bring my finger in and touch the TARDIS. Ooh, 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 oh, look, there was a TARDIS here all the time. Nobody spotted that one. TARDIS, look at it, there it is. Ooh. Ooh, TARDIS, unspotted TARDIS. I win, because I found the TARDIS and nobody else did. Yeah, you tell him. Richard Swiderski, no. No, no, no. You can't say that after I found it. In 5 more minutes' time, we're going to be moving you over to Gamehammer Classic Gaming, where anything goes tonight. And don't worry, you don't really have to do anything. You will be moved over automatically at the end of the stream, and your live streaming entertainment will continue on that channel. Valleys56XX says you can't see it. Robert Cesare says we couldn't see it. Jerry BBR says couldn't see it from this angle. Oh. Ah. I thought you could. Oh, that would explain why nobody spotted it. Totally hidden by the embankment. Oh. Oh, okay. I didn't win. My fault. It's really hard because I'm having to do it by hand with my thumb because the power system for the motor has failed. But I know people like to see the turntable moving. I must find a crank handle for this, to be honest with you. Oh, I've got a numb thumb. No, I can't do any more. My thumb's gone numb. We use frying bacon. Yeah, avocado. Avocado coloured bathroom suites was an early to mid 80s thing, I seem to remember. My parents bought a brand new house in 1984-85 which had an avocado coloured bathroom suite. Good night, Richard Zadersky, and as I said before, we're about to move you on over to Gamehammer Classic Gaming for the Anything Goes Classic Gaming Night. Any retro game is a goal. You pick the game that the Cupboard Monkey plays. And for now, from me and everyone at Weir Yard, thank you for watching. Don't forget as well that we have this week on Wednesday will be our full-length exclusive interview with Fran Burke from Accurascale. It's the last of our interview series that we did at Making Tracks 3 at Chester Cathedral, and we'll be showing that in its entirety on Wednesday with lots of great information about Accurascale and the hobby in general. On Friday, we will also be showing part 6 of the O-Gauge Garden Railway rebuild, where electrics and ballasting gets tackled. Out in the garden, it's a little bit more difficult, but I show you how to make sure that you get great electrical continuity that is durable and will last, and also take on a ballasting technique that's a little bit unconventional, but certainly will yield really good results. We prep the Garden Railway for its first train, so join me on Friday for that video. But now we're going to be moving on over to the Gamehammer Classic gaming stream. You don't need to do anything but take care, and you should be moved through and across automatically. But from me tonight at Weirya,